If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so you can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many, many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm today to get started. Hello, self-developers, and welcome to the Patrick Kelly Podcast for Self-Development, where I will be reviewing audible books on self-development that can change your life for the better this year and years to come. It is said that if we keep on doing what we always did, we will keep on getting what we always got. In other words, to change our output, we first have to change our input. Today is June 19th, 2022, and this is episode 25 of season 2. And today we'll be reviewing the audible book, Sharpen the Saw, Habit 7 of the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. This audible book will teach you how to sharpen the saw and create a habit of continual improvement. The opposite of sharpen the saw is to leave it dull until the blade breaks, until the mind becomes dull and the spirit is insensitive. Sharpening the saw is the concept of continuous improvement and continuous learning, forever getting better. Habit 7 is the habit that focuses on production capability, also known as PC. Habit 7, if done right, automatically develops the other 6 habits because it takes a high level of proactivity and a responsibility to consistently sharpen the saw.
Lesson number 1.
One of the most important things that you can do is to share these ideas with your friends, family, and associates. Remember, a strong character is not developed overnight. This takes time. All the 7 habits are based on universal principles that have endured throughout the ages. Don't just study habits, live and become the habits. Think about your mission statement and what you stand for, and what are your priorities. Are you really putting first things first, searching for a win-win in every situation? Are you listening with your heart in order to seek first to understand and then to be understood? Remember, to know and not do is really not to know.
Lesson number 2.
Habit 7 is taking deliberate time to sharpen the saw. It surrounds the other habits on the 7 habits paradigm because it is the habit that makes all others possible. Habit 7 is personal PC, or production capability. It is enhancing and preserving the greatest asset you have, which is you. It is renewing the 4 dimensions of your nature: physical, spiritual, mental, and social and/or emotional. Physical involves exercise, nutrition, and stress management. Spiritual involves value clarification, commitment, and meditation. Mental involves reading, visualizing, planning, and writing. Social and/or emotional involves service, empathy, synergy, and intrinsic security.
Lesson number 3.
Continuing education and continually honing and expanding the mind is vital mental renewal. It is very valuable to read broadly and expose yourself daily to great minds based on books about self-development. There is no better way to inform and expand your mind on a regular basis than to get into the habit of reading good literature. This is a high leverage quadrant 2 activity. It is recommended that we sharpen our saw by reading a book a month, then a book every 2 weeks, then a book a week. We must always remember the expression, the person who does not read is no better off than the person who cannot read. Reading affects our ability to think clearly, to reason accurately, and to understand effectively. Sharpening the saw is the daily private victory.
Lesson number 4.
Someday in the years to come, you will be wrestling with the great temptation or trembling under the great sorrow of your life. But the real struggle is here, now. Now it is being decided whether in the day of your supreme sorrow or temptation you shall fail miserably or gloriously conquer. Character cannot be made except by a steady, long, continued process. The social-emotional dimension. While the physical and emotional dimensions are closely related to habits 1, 2, and 3, centered on the principles of personal vision, leadership, and management. The social and/or emotional dimension focuses on habits 1 and 6, centered on the principles of interpersonal leadership, empathic communication, and creative cooperation.
Lesson number 5.
If our personal security comes from sources within ourselves, then we have the strength to practice the habits of public victory. If we are emotionally insecure, even though we may be intellectually advanced, practicing habits 4, 5, and 6 with people who think differently on the juggling issues of life can be terribly threatening. Intrinsic security comes from within. It comes from accurate paradigms and correct principles deeper in our mind and heart. It comes from inside-out congruence, from living a life of integrity in which our daily habits reflect our deepest values. True peace of mind comes when your life is in harmony with true principles and values.
Lesson number 6.
Renewal is the principle and the process that empowers us to move on an upward spiral of growth and change of continuous improvement. To make meaningful and consistent progress along that spiral, conscience is the endowment that senses our congruence or disparity with correct principles and lifts us towards them when it isn't in shape. Education of the conscience is vital to the truly proactive, highly effective person. The more we obey our conscience, the more demands our conscience makes of us. He who wants to keep his garden tidy doesn't reserve a plot for weeds. We will always reap what we sow, no more, no less. We must learn, commit, and do. There is no shortcut in developing. Closing thoughts. On a scale of 1 to 5, I would give this audible book a fantastic 5 for providing 6 lessons on how to sharpen the saw. This is the end of the 7-part series on the 7 habits of highly effective people. To find out more about this audible book, go to www.audible.com and download this audible book, or go to www.franklincovey.com to find out more information and other books written by the author. Remember to hit the subscribe button on your favorite podcast platform so you do not miss an episode. And also remember to please share this episode via text or email with friends and family and other people that you care about. Follow me on Twitter at Kelly Podcast or Instagram at Patrick Kelly Podcast. For more episodes of the Patrick Kelly Podcast for self-development, go to www.thepatrickkellypodcast.com. If you would like to donate $1 or more to the support of this podcast, click the donate button at www.thepatrickkellypodcast.com or go to $Patrick Kelly Podcast on Cash App, and I'll be sure to thank you on the next episode. This is the end of this podcast for today. Tune in next week Sunday for the next episode and the next audible book of over 300 books that I'll be reviewing on the Patrick Kelly Podcast for self-development. If you enjoyed this podcast, take a moment to rate and review on Apple Podcasts. This really helps me out. Feel free to share this podcast with someone you care about. And remember, your life does not get better by chance, it gets better by change. Take care.